It was just past midnight when Lagos began to die down into its eerie silence. Under the yellow glow of a flickering street lamp, something stirred in a pile of garbage outside a high-end supermarket in Victoria Island. A ragged movement, weak, almost lifeless. That something was a human being. A woman. People passed her like she was invisible, curled up in torn clothes and bruises, her face stained with blood and dirt. No one cared. No one asked. But hours earlier, she had a name, a family, a husband. Now she was just another piece of discarded trash in a world that pretends to care until it's too late. But fate doesn't check bank balances. And by the time the sun rose again, her story would take a turn so unreal, even the stars would pause to witness. Zara used to be beautiful, not the type of beauty you see on TV, but the kind that glowed from her heart. She was 27, a primary school teacher in Ibadan with a soft voice and a soul too kind for this world. She met Daniel at church. He was charismatic, a young entrepreneur with dreams bigger than his heart. He promised her a future paved with peace and partnership. The first few months of marriage were warm. Daniel adored her. Or so she thought. Until the deals started drying up. Until he began drinking and gambling, hiding behind Bible verses and charm to fool the world. He grew colder. Crueler. Then one day, without warning, Daniel forced her into a car and drove to Lagos, under the pretense of visiting a friend. She had no idea what he was planning. No idea that her love story was about to turn into a nightmare. He pulled into an alley behind the supermarket, dragging her out like a sack of old clothes. "You're useless, Zara. What have you ever done for me?" "Nothing," he spat, hurling her into the trash heap. Her head hit the corner of a bin. Pain exploded behind her eyes. She screamed, begged, still believing he'd come back. But Daniel drove off without a glance. Blood trickled from her forehead as she lay there, her ears ringing, her world spinning. Hours passed. No one helped. Rats crept nearby. Her body trembled not just from pain, but the ache of betrayal that cut deeper than any wound. At the same hour, somewhere in Ikoyi, billionaire Chuka Kalu was having a restless night. He wasn't the type of billionaire who threw champagne parties or bought private jets for Instagram clout. Kalu had clawed his way out of Ajigunal slums, earning every naira through grit, street smarts, and uncommon kindness. Now in his 40s, he ran a chain of real estate companies but lived modestly, haunted by memories of his late sister who died homeless after being abused by her husband. That night, something pulled him to the road. Literally. His driver had gone home, but Kalu couldn't sleep. He decided to get a bottle of water from the 24-hour supermarket nearby. Alone. As he parked his car, he saw the mound of garbage twitch. Instinct kicked in. He rushed out. "Madam," he whispered, kneeling beside her, flashlight illuminating her swollen face. "Can you hear me?" Zara blinked, whispering a word barely audible, "Help." He didn't hesitate. He wrapped her in his coat, lifted her into his car, and drove straight to a private hospital. 3 days later, Zara woke up in a clean, white room. A nurse smiled and said gently, "You're safe now." Her body ached, her lips cracked, and memories came rushing back like a flood. She wept, ashamed, broken, humiliated. Mr. Kalu stood at the doorway holding fresh fruits and a look of quiet concern. "I'm Chuka," he said softly. "No one deserves to be thrown away like that." "You're safe here, Zara." How did you know my name?" "You whispered it in your sleep," he said with a kind smile. "You don't have to tell me anything. Just rest." But Zara did talk. Eventually. Days passed, and with time, Kalu's kindness didn't fade. He never crossed boundaries. Never asked for favors. He simply listened. Zara shared everything, her marriage, her fall, her fears. Each word felt like poison leaving her system. "Do you want to press charges?" Kalu asked one day. No, she said. Let God judge him. I just want to be whole again. Kalu set her up in one of his guest houses with a caretaker. He paid for therapy, clothes, and gave her the space to find herself again. She started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping victims of domestic violence. Through it all, Kalu visited every week. Brought books, flowers, conversation. He never flirted. Never pushed. One day, after 3 months, Zara asked him, "Why are you doing all this for me?" He paused. Because my sister died on the street. No one helped her. I swore if I ever found another woman like her, I wouldn't look away. Zara's eyes welled up. I wish someone like you had saved me earlier, she whispered. He smiled. Maybe God was waiting for the right time. Zara got stronger. Her laughter returned, cautious at first, then fully bloomed. She started a small education initiative for street kids in Lagos, using the knowledge she had as a teacher. Kalu sponsored it without blinking. Soon, admiration turned into something deeper. They both knew it. But Kalu was cautious. He feared his wealth might blur the line. Until one rainy evening, after a charity event, Zara stood in front of him, soaked and smiling. I'm not here because you saved me, she said. I'm here because you reminded me how to live. I love you, Chuka. And with a whisper, he said, then let me build you a life worth never escaping again. A year later, they married in a quiet ceremony, nothing lavish. Just love, peace, and purpose. Zara stood at the altar, not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as a woman who had risen from garbage to grace. But the world wasn't ready for what came next. Because the man who dumped her in the trash would soon return. And he wasn't coming back to apologize. Life had finally found its rhythm for Zara. Her past, once a chain around her soul, now lay behind her like a grave she never visited. The school she ran with Kalu's support was flourishing, and she was becoming a voice for abused women across Nigeria. Magazines requested interviews, and her story, rising from a trash dump to a billionaire's wife, had begun to inspire thousands. But peace, like glass, is fragile. And one stormy Monday afternoon, that glass shattered. Zara had just finished mentoring a group of young girls when her assistant, Ronk, rushed into her office, her face pale. There's a man outside, he says he's your husband. Zara's heart stopped. The air seemed to vanish from the room. She stepped out cautiously, and there he stood. Daniel. Thinner, rougher, but still wearing that smug cruelty like a second skin. His eyes flicked over her designer dress, her neat braids, her poise. Well, well, look at you. The trash grew wings, he sneered. Security guards stood alert beside him, but Zara raised her hand. What do you want? To talk. In private, he smirked. Unless you want your little school here to know who you really are. Zara's breath trembled, but she straightened. You don't get to blackmail me, Daniel. Oh, I'm not here to blackmail you, he said, his voice low and venomous. I'm here to claim what's mine. My wife. Zara stared, disgusted. You left me to die in a dumpster. I married you legally. I never divorced you. So unless you want trouble for bigamy, I suggest you talk to me with respect. His words were like acid. Suddenly, the confident woman she had become started to waver. Her past had clawed its way back into her present. That night, she told Kalu everything. I knew something like this might come, he said, his jaw clenched. But you're not alone anymore. We'll fight him. The next weeks were a nightmare. Daniel filed a claim in court, demanding spousal compensation for abandonment and exploitation. He claimed Zara used him to rise in status and left him behind for a rich man. The tabloids jumped on it like hungry hyenas. Billionaire's wife hides secret past. Ex-husband demands justice. From dump to deception? Zara's carefully rebuilt life hung by a thread. Her donors pulled out. Sponsors grew quiet. The children at her school were being mocked in their communities. She cried one night in the arms of Kalu, broken. I just wanted to help people like me. Why is this happening? Kalu looked her in the eye. Because you dared to rise from where people wanted you buried. On the day of the court hearing, the courtroom buzzed like a disturbed beehive. Daniel swaggered in with cheap sunglasses and a crooked lawyer. Zara sat beside Kalu, her face calm but fierce. The judge listened. Daniel spoke, pretending to be a loving husband abandoned and heartbroken. He painted Zara as a gold digger who used pity to snare a billionaire. Then Zara took the stand. She didn't cry. She didn't break. She simply told the truth. He dragged me out of our home like trash. Beat me. Left me to die behind a supermarket. I begged for mercy, and he walked away while I bled. There was a hush. Mr. Kalu didn't just save me. He gave me space to save myself. I was never his property. And I am not this man's wife anymore, I am a survivor. Her voice trembled, but it trembled with power. The judge ruled in her favor. The marriage, declared long abandoned and abused, was officially annulled. Daniel was warned to stay away or face criminal charges for attempted extortion and assault. But Daniel wasn't finished. As he stormed out of the court, he growled, "You think this is over? I'll destroy everything you love." Zara didn't flinch this time. I already rose from death, Daniel. There's nothing left of me for you to break. After the court ruling, the public perception slowly began to shift. News stations aired Zara's full story. Survivors from all walks of life came forward, moved by her courage. Donations returned, the school reopened with greater support than ever, and she was offered a government partnership to lead nationwide programs for battered women. But while the world applauded, Zara remained vigilant. Daniel had disappeared, too quiet, too fast. And silence from a man like him wasn't peace. It was preparation. One night, as thunder rolled across the Lagos sky, Zara was driving home alone from a late-night TV interview. Her security had been reassigned due to a last-minute schedule change. She felt it, the wrongness. The same way animals sense an earthquake before it happens. She turned down her estate street, and a motorbike suddenly screeched in front of her. Two masked men jumped off and smashed her windshield with iron rods. Zara screamed. But before they could drag her out, two black SUVs came to a halt behind her. Doors flew open. Kalu stepped out, followed by his private security. Within minutes, the attackers were disarmed and pinned to the ground. One of them cried out, "It was Daniel. He paid us. He said make it look like robbery." That was all the police needed. Daniel was arrested the next morning, caught hiding in a cheap hotel on the mainland. In his room, they found photos of Zara, detailed plans, and fake documents claiming her properties. The news exploded again. But this time, the public wasn't divided. They were furious. Zara sat in front of Daniel in prison, just once, at her own request. "I wanted to see the man who left me to rot. Who tried to break me again and again. And you know what, Daniel?" He stared at her through the glass, eyes lifeless. "I forgive you." He scoffed. "Not for you," she added, her voice calm. "For me. Because I'm not taking your poison into my future." He looked at her for a long time, like he didn't recognize the woman before him. That was the last time they ever spoke. 1 year later, Zara was honored with the National Heroine Award for Humanitarian Impact. Standing on that podium in front of thousands, she wore the same gold wristband Kalu had given her the day they married. Not because it sparkled, but because it reminded her, gold must pass through fire before it shines. She looked into the cameras and said, Don't ever believe the world's final verdict on you, especially if that verdict was written by someone who tried to bury your voice. I was dumped in a trash heap like I was nothing. But someone saw my worth. And more importantly, I learned to see it in myself. Let this be the last generation where women are silent in pain. Speak. Rise. And when they throw you away, stand taller from the ground they thought would bury you. Tears flowed freely in the crowd. Not just from women, but from men too. Husbands, brothers, strangers. And Chukakalu, standing at the back, simply smiled. Not because he had saved her, but because she had finally saved herself. When life drags you through the trash, remember, you're not what they did to you. You're what you choose to become after. No one has the right to discard another human being. Real worth isn't measured by status, wealth, or public approval. It's revealed in resilience, in rising after being broken, and in daring to love yourself again, even when others see you as garbage.